I love One Piece. One Piece is my second favorite anime of all time. I grew up with the show from the laughably bad 4Kids version as a kid, and then eventually the Funimation dub that aired on Toonami.
One Piece is about a boy named Monkey D. Luffy, who wants to be king of the pirates by obtaining the One Piece, a legendary treasure left behind by Gold Roger, who before he died said that anyone can have his treasure, but first they must find it, causing many pirates to scatter around the world in search of Gold Roger's legendary treasure.
So today, I'd like to take you on this very, very long journey as we go through and talk about each arc in One Piece, starting from humble beginnings with Romance Dawn.
Written and illustrated by Ichiro Oda, One Piece is Japan's most popular manga series, with many awards and having many movies, games, and even an upcoming live-action series. Please God, no. It first came out in Weekly Shonen Jump back in 1997. Then, in October of 1999, got an anime adaptation by Toei Animation that airs weekly even to this day. From a very young age, Oda always dreamed of creating a series about pirates after watching 1974's Vicky the Viking. Also, he was inspired by Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, and even got to collaborate with him a few times. Romance Dawn originally was the title of the series, and Oda even made a few prototype chapters of it, which eventually got 2 OVAs dedicated to them.
So now, let's dive into this series, piece by piece, as we follow Luffy's journey to becoming the king of the pirates. Subbed or dubbed? Oh, the dub version. Yes, I agree, the subbed version is better overall, but I grew up with the show from watching the dub, so that's the one I prefer to watch up until the New World. Plus, I think the English voice actors do a very good job for the most part.
Boo! You stink!
Romance Dawn is 7 chapters and 3 episodes. The story begins on a cruise ship as all the passengers are having a great time and the crewmen play around with a barrel. Huh, pretty tame beginnings for a first episode. You'd figure in a world of pirates, a pirate ship would show up and attack or something. And with that, we meet our first villain of the series, Miss Iron Club Alvida. Oh god, what the fuck is that? We also meet one of her crew members, Kobe, a shy kid who accidentally became a crew member for Alvida for 2 years because he got onto one of their ships when he went to go fishing.
Captain, we've got pirates! What?
What? Pirates are real? I thought Gold Roger was just fucking around.
As the pirates raid the enemy ship, a strange girl who doesn't talk for 2 whole episodes goes off onto Alvida's ship to grab her treasure. Meanwhile, Kobe finds the barrel that the crew members found earlier in the episode. Some of Alvida's pirates see him and want to open it thinking it's liquor, and oh boy, if this ain't the world's most dangerous jack-in-the-box.
Colin, you're a solid voice actor and a good overall fit for the voice of Luffy, but literally what the fuck?
And out comes the man of the hour, Monkey D. Luffy, who was sleeping in the barrel and got caught up in a whirlpool while he was sailing on his own. After taking down the pirates, Luffy and Kobe talk a bit about themselves. Kobe explains how he unfortunately wound up with Alvida. And, of course, after hearing such a sad tale, our main protagonist of Justice, Luffy, gives Kobe the best advice a friend could give.
You're a moron and a coward! I hate people like you!
On the verge of having a mental breakdown and needing words of encouragement? Luffy's got your back.
Kobe tells Luffy that his dream is to become a Marine so he can catch bad guys like Miss Honey Boo Boo One Too Many Go-Go Juices over here, and with the worst timing, she hears this and attacks Luffy and Kobe.
Kobe! Who is the most beautiful of all on these seas?
Easy, my mom. Next question.
During the fight, Luffy reveals he's actually made of rubber after eating a devil fruit known as the Gum Gum fruit. Or Gummu Gummo if you're a fucking weeb. Luffy beats Alvida and heads out before the Marines show up, and they set sail. Kobe tells Luffy about a pirate hunter who recently got captured. Intrigued by this, Luffy goes to see this man with the intentions to make him his first crew member. In episode 2, Luffy and Kobe enter Shell's Town, a small town with a marine base controlled by Marine Captain Axe Hand Morgan. They find an execution ground, and at the center of it is my favorite character in One Piece. May I introduce the pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro. Fun fact, in the 4Kids version, they changed Zoro to Zolo because 4Kids didn't want to get sued by the makers of the Zoro movies.
Are we sure this isn't the main villain of the show?
I'm gonna kill him while he's tied up.
Here.
Listen, kid, I'm not hungry. Now stop irritating me and get out of here.
But
Do not make me kick your ass, little girl.
What can I say? Zoro's the best.
We then come across an alternate universe version of another character named Helmeppo. He's a spoiled brat who got Zoro tied up as a bet for causing a ruckus. If he can go 1 month tied up to this plank without food, then he's free to go. And he's got 10 days left.
I said throw her over the wall, soldier.
After helping the kid with her broken legs, they head back to the village. Helmeppo shows up saying he'll actually execute Zoro tomorrow instead of keeping the agreement. Luffy goes to Zoro and tells him that he's actually going to be executed tomorrow, and he uses this as an opportunity to tell him that if he doesn't want to die, then he should join his crew.
Jesus, for a main protagonist, Luffy's kind of a dick. Join my crew against your will, and you don't get shot.
Zoro begrudgingly agrees, and Luffy goes to find Zoro's normal amount of swords. Meanwhile, we meet Marine Captain Axe Hand Morgan, a self-absorbed douchebag who hates anyone that disobeys him.
You there. Go into town, find this girl and kill her.
Man, they, really do not like children in this show.
Luffy causes a ruckus with the Marines and is now on the run looking for Zoro's swords. He comes across Helmeppo and forces him to help him look for Zoro's swords.
Bingo! Hold on, there are 3 here.
Huh, 3 swords. That's weird. 1 sword makes sense. 2 swords, yeah, because you can use 1 in each hand. But why 3 swords? Where would you even put it? Oh, I know, it must be a backup in case 1 gets destroyed. Of course that's the reason. Marine Captain Axe Hand Morgan and some cronies show up to execute Zoro and Kobe right on the spot. But just before they could pull the trigger, Luffy arrives in the nick of time. Luffy gives Zoro back his swords, and as the Marines charge, Zoro takes action.
Now, Mr. Roronoa, for the 1015th time, I would highly advise against putting 3 pounds of cold steel in your mouth. Hope you got good dental insurance.
While Zoro holds off the Marines, he tells Luffy that he will join his crew to spread his name across the world and achieve his dream of becoming the world's greatest swordsman.
This is a direct order. Every Marine that just spouted weakness, pull your gun out and shoot yourself.
The few, the proud, the Marines.
Then Luffy and Marine Captain Axe Hand Morgan duke it out for a bit, but Helmeppo interrupts by making Kobe a hostage. Unfazed, Luffy and Zoro take them down, and the Marines celebrate that they are now free from these douchebags. Once again, this strange woman shows up snooping around the base looking for a treasure map of the Grand Line. Instead, she finds a note left behind by the ultimate tyrant, Destroyer of Worlds, the next King of Pirates, Buggy the Clown, who I guarantee you we'll talk about in the next video. Luffy, Zoro, and Kobe eat up at the village. Luffy exclaims his eagerness to head for the Grand Line ASAP. While violently shitting his pants, Kobe explains a bit about the world. The world is comprised of 2 giant oceans, the first half being the Grand Line. In between those oceans is a giant red landmass that goes around the world, known as the Red Line. Anyways, the Marines show up and thank Luffy and Zoro for what they did, but tell them to leave town immediately since they are pirates. As the great guy that Luffy is, he beats the shit out of Kobe real quick and heads out. Kobe asks to join the Marines and gets accepted. Then, we watch as the newly formed Straw Hat Pirates set sail into the unknown. To be continued. Orange Town is 5 episodes and 14 chapters, making it twice as long as the previous arc. It starts off with 3 random pirates sailing around and they come across another ship and oh look! It's that orange-haired girl from the previous episode. She offers her treasure for their help.
Hold up. Here we go.
Meanwhile, our boys Luffy and Zoro sailing around, and Luffy tells the story of where he got his straw hat from. It cuts to a flashback of Luffy as a kid in his home village called Fuchsia Village. A bunch of pirates are having a great time at the local bar, and Luffy is chilling next to his idol Shanks, who's wearing the straw hat. A few mountain bandits show up and start making a mess of the place.
I'm wanted. There's an 8 million berry bounty on my head.
8 million? That's insane! Guys, I think that's probably one of the highest bounties we'll ever see in this show.
Speaking of bounties, this is how they work in the One Piece world. Bounties are wanted posters issued by the world government for people to capture dead or alive. The price represents how much of a threat they are to the world government, not necessarily how strong a character is like a lot of people assume. After the alpha male bandits leave the beta male Shanks alone, Luffy grabs this random fruit from a treasure chest and eats it. It turns out that fruit that he ate was the Gum Gum Devil Fruit that turns your body into rubber like we saw earlier. Also, when you consume any devil fruit, you are then hated by the sea and your swimming license is revoked, meaning you can't swim and just sink to the bottom of the ocean. A while later, the mountain bandits attack Luffy for yelling at them because they made fun of Shanks. Then Makino goes to get help from the strongest man in all of One Piece.
Mayor, help me!
All hail Whoop Slap. I am but a humble servant asking for your mighty wisdom and godlike powers.
Fun fact, in the most recent Top 100 global poll, Whoop Slap was ranked 37. Before Child Protective Services can do anything, Shanks and his crew show up to stop the bandits.
Listen up, bandits. Whether I'm sprayed with alcohol or doused with food, hell, even if I'm spit on, most of the time I'll just laugh it off and forget about it.
Shanks is kinda freaky, isn't he?
After taking them down, the head bandit runs off with Luffy. The head bandit throws Luffy into the ocean, and since he ate a devil fruit, he sinks to the bottom. But then, a creature known as a Sea King emerges. It kills the bandit and then charges at Luffy. Luckily, Shanks shows up just in time to save Luffy and scares the Sea King away. Even though Luffy is saved, Shanks lost his arm in the process, and somehow not screaming in pain. A while later, Shanks and his crew are about to leave the village. Luffy promises that someday he'll become a pirate better than Shanks and become the king of the pirates. Impressed with Luffy's determination, Shanks gives him his precious straw hat and tells Luffy to give it back to him someday in good condition once he becomes a great pirate. Luffy's flashback in episode 4 is actually the very first chapter of One Piece with 56 pages. One of the biggest differences is that it starts with Luffy stabbing himself to prove he's tough enough to be a pirate, which explains the scar that we see under his eye. And now we flash forward to present day. Luffy and Zoro are still floating about and hungry. They find a bird and Luffy tries to catch it. Turns out the bird, was a lot bigger than they thought. Eventually, Luffy falls down and lands in Orange Town, next to the strange orange-haired girl who's on the run from pirates. During the commotion, the mysterious orange-haired girl pretends that she's Luffy's underling so she can escape from the pirates.
I wonder if they've killed that poor guy yet.
Wow, okay, what an actual bitch.
After Luffy beats the pirates, the strange orange-haired girl introduces herself as Nami, the thief/navigator who hates pirates and steals their treasure, and Luffy wants her to join his crew.
My goal is to earn 100 million berries, no matter how hard it is or how long it takes.
Even though in the anime we meet Nami in the very first episode, she actually doesn't show up until chapter 8 of the manga.
I guess I might consider joining you, but only if you'll agree to certain conditions. Really? I'll do anything.
Meanwhile, we get introduced to the main villain of this arc. May I introduce to you the Tyrant himself, the strongest character in all of One Piece, who makes even Goku, Saitama, and Shaggy quake in their boots. This is Buggy the Clown. And yes, that is his real nose. Nami brings Luffy to Buggy all tied up as a prisoner and asks to join his crew so she can steal their treasure for later. Buggy accepts, and they have a party. They then show off the destructive power of one of their special cannonballs, known as a Buggy Ball.
That's just a literal nuke.
To prove Nami's loyalty, Buggy wants her to use a Buggy Ball to kill Luffy.
Let's get back to the welcoming party and just have more fun.
This is my idea of having more fun.
It ain't a party unless someone dies.
Nami refuses, and just before she's attacked, Mr. Three-Sword Style himself shows up. Buggy wants to fight Zoro to bolster his reputation.
Oh, he died. Well, alright. See you guys next video.
Buggy survives and stabs Zoro in the back. We learn that Buggy also ate a devil fruit known as the Chop Chop fruit. He can split his body in half and is immune to being cut. As a last-ditch effort, Zoro points the cannon at Buggy and his crew. Nami fires a Buggy ball, killing them all. Okay, he's dead. See you guys next video. Zoro uses this opportunity to escape with Luffy.
Who is this guy?
Are you gonna help? Buggy wants revenge, so he sends one of his subordinates, Beast Tamer Moji, after them. The gang find refuge in the middle of a town and come across a pet shop. Next to that pet shop is the strongest character in all of One Piece. May I introduce to you, Shushu the dog. I guess Luffy is more of a cat kind of guy. Meanwhile, the mayor of Orangetown shows up and explains a bit about Shushu and the town. 40 years ago, everyone came to the island with nothing and worked to slowly build this town from the ground up. The town and its villagers is the mayor's treasure. Shushu lived with his owner at the local pet shop. They both worked hard and enjoyed each other's company. He was a frail old man who gradually got weaker and more ill. One day, he tells Shushu that he's gonna go away for a while and wants Shushu to hold down the fort until he comes back. And like your dad going to get some milk from the store, he never came back. To Shushu, this pet shop and the memories of his owner are his treasure. Beast Tamer Moji and his trusted lion Richie show up. They eat Luffy and start attacking the pet shop so Richie can get some food. Shushu fights back to the best of his abilities, but it's a lion 3 times its normal size, so it doesn't go too well. The shop is burned to the ground. Luffy sees this and goes to look for Moji and Richie. He one-shots Richie and cements his hate for furries by beating Moji. Frustrated by his weakness, the mayor goes to fight Buggy. Luffy and Co. go to help him. Luffy shows his determination to save the old man from getting hurt by kicking his ass. Buggy's other subordinate, Kabuji, shows up looking to fight. Zoro decides to fight him. Also, keep this in mind. Whenever the Straw Hats come across an enemy with a sword, 9 times out of 10, Zoro will fight him. Kabuji fights dirty using a bunch of weird tricks and kicking Zoro in his wound he got from Buggy. With his massive balls of titanium, Zoro purposely takes a hit from Kabuji to show his determination. In the manga, Zoro actually cuts himself rather than letting Kabuji stab him. Zoro finishes Kabuji off with his rice ball attack. Nami decides it's fucking stupid to watch a bunch of sweaty weebs fight each other and goes off to steal Buggy's treasure. Next up, Luffy and Buggy duke it out. Luffy's got the upper hand, but Buggy plays dirty and attacks Luffy's hat. Of course, this pisses off Luffy, and he goes sicko mode on Buggy. Buggy reveals that he knew a man with a hat like that. We learned that Buggy actually knew Shanks, and they used to be in the same pirate crew when they were younger. This right here is a small example of what I love about this show. So many pieces are connected. Many characters that we meet early on in this series who don't seem that important become much more relevant to the plot in some way. In the final episode of this arc, Buggy tells the story of when he and Shanks were on the same pirate crew. During a fight with an enemy ship, Buggy comes across a treasure map that points to loot at the bottom of the ocean.
Treasure map! I've never seen one before.
You must not be a very good pirate if you've never seen a treasure map before.
The crew also found a devil fruit, and Buggy learns that devil fruits can sell up to 100 million berries. Damn, a fruit is worth more than that mountain bandit from earlier.
But if we ever meet on the ocean, then we'd have to have a fight to the death.
Why? That sounds like a really shitty reunion. Hey, Frank, long time no see. How have you been? Ah, shit.
Buggy steals the fruits with plans to sell it and take the treasure for himself. Shanks notices Buggy and goes to see what he's up to. In a panic, Buggy puts a whole-ass pineapple in his mouth and accidentally swallows it, giving him the powers that we've seen. Buggy drops the treasure map and goes to grab it, but doesn't realize that he loses the ability to swim. and Shanks goes to save him in the most dramatic way possible. And now Buggy hates Shanks for causing him to lose the ability to swim. So now Buggy swears that if he can't get any treasure underwater, then he will do everything he can to grab all treasure on land. For Buggy, his definition of treasure is in the literal sense of money, fame, and power. This also applies to Nami to a certain extent.
Honestly, what did your parents teach you?
Buggy fails to reassemble his entire body because Nami grabs some of the parts. Then Luffy deals the finishing blow to Buggy. For thanks, Nami gives Luffy the map of the Grand Line, and she decides to join the crew. The townspeople show up and notice all the damage and that the mayor is knocked out.
He's out cold.
The pirates definitely did this. How horrible.
No, I'm the one who kicked that old man's ass.
One of the many flaws of Luffy is that he's way too honest. Like, this guy cannot lie to save his life.
The Straw Hats run away while the villagers chase them. Luckily, good old Shushu blocks their path so they can escape. The mayor eventually wakes up and goes to say his goodbyes to the Straw Hats and thanks them for saving his village, and the Straw Hats sail off. Then, before the episode ends, we get a teaser of what's to come next. The true, strongest character in all of One Piece and the meaning of life. Next time, we'll talk about God himself. To be continued. Syrup Village is 10 episodes and 20 chapters, making it twice as long as Orange Town. I really hope every arc isn't just going to be twice as long as the previous one. We start off in this small, quiet village. Nothing's really going on, but all of a sudden this strange man starts running into the village and yelling that pirates are coming. Turns out, it was all a lie, and he just likes to fuck with the villagers when he's bored. Meanwhile, the Straw Hats are sailing around, and Nami uses her nagging abilities to tell the gang that if they want to enter the Grand Line, then they need an actual ship, more crew members, and some food.
We'll need a cook and maybe a musician to keep us entertained.
A musician?
Back at the village, we learn that this guy's name is Usopp, the town liar and sniper who's godlike with a slingshot. He has his own little pirate crew called the Usopp Pirates with 3 kids from the village named Carrot, Pepper, and Onion. You know for a fact their parents hated them. Onion comes in running frantically and screaming like he just saw his mom and dad wrestling each other. He tells everyone that some pirates actually landed into the village and they go to investigate. The Straw Hats show up and Usopp comes to confront them with his army of 8,000 men. Unfortunately, Nami and Luffy call his bullshit and the rest of the kids run away. Luffy tells Usopp that he knows his dad Yasopp, who's a member of Shanks' crew, and they instantly become best friends and eat at a restaurant to talk about his dad.
Quick Japanese lesson. Meshi means food, so that restaurant is literally just called food. I love it. You don't need fancy names like Costco or Applebee's. Just tell me what you're selling and I'm good to go.
Usopp doesn't know too much about his father because at a young age, Yasopp left the village to pursue a life of piracy. Nami asks Usopp if they know anyone in the village who could give them a ship. Usopp says he doesn't know, but Zoro mentions the mansion far off into the village. Usopp tells them not to go there and runs off. Speaking of the mansion, we meet Kaya, a girl who became sick after her parents died, and her butler Kaya asks Klahadore, nailed it, if she can see Usopp, but Klahadore tells her that she mustn't as he's a troublemaker. I mean, can you blame him? Look at that nose. Usopp goes to visit Kaya and tells her stories of his great adventures as Captain Usopp, like how he landed on an island that was actually poop from a giant goldfish. Obviously, these stories aren't real, but Kaya knows that. He tells these crazy fake stories to cheer her up since she's sick and can't leave the mansion. The Usopp pirates confront the Straw Hats and ask them where Usopp is at. Once everything is cleared up, they tell the Straw Hats about how Usopp goes to the mansion to see his main hoe. Luffy thinks it's a good idea to go see Kaya and ask her for a ship directly. They head to the mansion, but before Luffy can ask, Klahadore shows up and tells them to leave. Meanwhile, the man with the most drip of any anime character enters the scene. May I introduce Django the Hypnotist. Back at the mansion, Klahadore starts talking shit about Usopp's dad. He gets pissed and punches Klahadore. Then Usopp and everyone leaves the mansion. A bit later, Klahadore goes to Kaya with some food and they talk about what happened.
Thank you. I don't want it.
The cook would be most upset to hear you say that.
Mamma mia! Why won't you eat a big Tony spicy macaroni? I spent 5 hours making this just for you! Isn't that right, Papa Bagoo?
Yeah,
Anyways, Klahadore reminisces about how he came to the village 3 years ago. He was fired from his previous job and was on the verge of dying from hunger. Kaya's dad lets him into the mansion and gives him a job as a butler. Now that Kaya's parents are dead, Klahadore wants to do everything he can to make sure Kaya is safe. Meanwhile, Django runs into everyone and shows off his hypnotism. A strange adult hypnotizing 3 little boys? The police ain't gonna like that one, Chief. Usopp is having his sad boy hours, but Luffy goes to see him to cheer him up. As they talk, Luffy points out Klahadore at the shore having a conversation with Django. Turns out, Klahadore is actually the infamous Captain Kudo, the second smartest man in all of East Blue, who supposedly died 3 years ago. Captain Kudo faked his death because he got tired of living a life of piracy and just wants to live a normal, quiet, but rich life. He plans to have his crew, the Black Cat Pirates, raid the village and make Kaya sign her will, leaving all of her fortune to him, and then kill her, by making it seem like an accident. Luffy and Usopp hear all of this, and like the righteous, brain-dead guy he is, Luffy immediately confronts Django and Captain Kudo. Django hypnotizes Luffy and he falls off the cliff. Usopp runs to tell the village that pirates are coming, but Captain Kudo isn't worried at all because nobody would believe him since he always lies. This story is pretty much The Boy Who Cried Wolf, but with pirates. Usopp heads to the village and tells everyone that pirates are coming, but they all just assume he's lying and up to his old tricks as usual. All the villagers exclaim how they wish he was more honest like good old, totally not at all evil Klahadore. Back at the mansion, Kaya talks to the other butler, Mary, about Klahadore's 3rd year anniversary since he started working at the mansion. They plan to give him some new glasses as a gift.
Wow, he worked his ass off for 3 years for some sick rich girl, and all he gets are some glasses? You know what? Now on Captain Kudo's side. Fuck this village.
The Straw Hats and Usopp pirates go to look for Luffy. They notice him at the bottom of the shore, but realize he's just sleeping and wake him up. Luffy tells them about Captain Kudo and his plan to kill Kaya for her fortune. Usopp tries to warn Kaya and get her away from the village, but Kaya doesn't believe him and calls him pathetic for making up such harsh lies.
Kinda makes you wonder what would happen if everyone did believe Usopp. Honestly, it'd probably be worse.
At night, the Straw Hats and Usopp talk about how the Black Cat Pirates are going to attack the village tomorrow morning. Usopp wants to fight them before they can enter the village, so all the villagers can just assume he's lying like usual and don't have to worry about anything. The Straw Hats commend his bravery and decide to help him. Captain Kudo heads back into the mansion and sees Mary. He finds the glasses and Mary tells him it's a gift from Kaya. Captain Kudo shows his true colors by breaking the shitty gift and attacking Mary with his cat claws. Also, this might just be me, but I really like the colors and imagery in this arc, especially this section. Once Captain Kudo attacks Mary, everything goes dark with these blue and green colors. There's no music, and Kudo just slowly walks up to Kaya's room with his bloody claws, ready to kill her, but he decides to hold back until tomorrow, and then he walks away in this Dutch angle into the darkness. It's pretty neat, and we don't really get a lot of stuff like this in the anime. Usopp and the Straw Hats get ready to fight the Black Cat Pirates at the shore.
But victory depends on our strength. What is it you guys can do?
I cut.
I stretch. I steal.
I make it the spiciest macaroni in all of Palma.
Dawn breaks and everyone is ready to fight, but strangely enough, nobody has shown up to the shore yet. With her supersonic hearing, Nami hears battle cries from afar. Usopp realizes that they're at the wrong shore and try to catch up before it's too late. Nami accidentally falls into the oil and pulls Zoro with her, but uses him as a ledge so she can get through. Usopp is the only one to make it, and rightfully so, starts to shit himself at the thought of fighting a bunch of bloodthirsty pirates. I mean, can you blame him? He's just some dorky 17-year-old kid who's never fought in his life before. Speaking of ages, it's not really important, but in this point of the story, Luffy and Usopp are 17, Nami is 18, and Zoro is 19. Usopp tries to bargain with them that they can take the treasure on the Straw Hat ship if they leave the village. Of course, Nami shows up and immediately beats the shit out of Usopp for speaking such blasphemy. And now the two most normal characters in this show fight off a bunch of pirates, and they do pretty well for the most part, but it doesn't last too long. The Black Cat Pirates power through Usopp and Nami and head into the village. They kill everyone and take Kaya's fortune. The end. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. Luffy and Zoro show up and kick their asses. Captain Kudo is wondering why the Black Cats haven't arrived yet and heads off to see what's taking so long. The Black Cat Pirates are no match for Luffy and Zoro, so Django hypnotizes everyone to make them extremely jacked.
See, you don't need to work out to get swole. Just find a hypnotist at your local gym and you're good to go.
The hypnotism also worked on Luffy, and he goes full angry Xbox Kid mode and rips the mask off the Black Cat ship ready to attack. But Django puts him to sleep before he can do anything. Meanwhile, Onion tells the others he saw Captain Kudo walking alone towards the shore, and so they go to check on Kaya. Speaking of Kaya, she wakes up looking for Klahadore, but finds Mary on the floor covered in blood. Mary tells Kaya that Klahadore is actually a pirate who attacked him and wants her fortune for himself.
No, you're lying!
Why would he lie? Yeah, your most trusted butler who's covered in blood, barely conscious and crying with broken glass all over the floor is totally lying to you. Does being sick make you stupid too?
Back at the shore, Django is struggling to get his men up the slope, so he summons the Meowbun brothers to fight Zoro.
This is why people don't watch One Piece.
The Meowbun brothers pretend to be scaredy cats and steal Zoro's swords. Nami tries to bring Zoro back his swords, but Django attacks her. Just as things start to look up for the Black Cats, Captain Kudo shows up and he is pissed. Captain Kudo is disappointed that they're taking so long to get up the shore. The Meowbun brothers think Captain Kudo is a dumb, stinky head and try to kill him, but Captain Kudo puts them in their place.
I'm one of those crazy weapons.
Says the guy who puts a fucking sword in his mouth.
Kudo gives the Black Cat pirates 5 minutes to fix everything, or he'll kill them all. The Meowbun brothers go to kill Zoro, but just before they can attack, Nami brings Zoro back his swords and he finishes them off. Unfortunately, Bucci survives because he's so darn fat, and he asks Django to hypnotize him so he's strong enough to kill Zoro. Nami goes to wake up Luffy, who's been asleep for like a whole episode while his friends are fighting for their lives. What a great main character. Django goes to attack her, but Luffy wakes up in the nick of time and he's ready to fight. Captain Kudo says that time is up and he's ready to kill everyone. Kaya shows up to confront Captain Kudo, but he thinks it's someone trying to attack her from behind. Captain Kudo tries to pretend like everything's fine, but Kaya calls him out on his bullshit and pulls out the 9. Captain Kudo talks to Kaya about the good old days and says how he absolutely hated all those 3 years of being her servant. She tries to plead with him and is willing to give up her fortune if he leaves the village, but he wants to stay on this island and live a nice quiet life away from piracy, but only if Kaya dies, leaving her fortune with him. Usopp tries to shoot Kudo, but he dodges a fucking bullet and gets ready to pay back Usopp for punching him from earlier. Just before Captain Kudo can attack, Luffy punches him square in the face and says my favorite one-liner in this entire arc.
If he hates getting hit that much, he's about to have a really bad day!
Oh, shit! The Usopp pirates show up and attack Kudo.
I bet now he wishes he didn't break those glasses he got from Kaya.
Usopp tells the kids to run and protect Kaya. Then Captain Kudo tells Django to go after them and have Kaya sign her will and kill her. Meanwhile, he'll fight Luffy. Zoro eventually beats Bucci. Anybody remember that going on?
Usopp, you good? Do you need some water? You gotta talk to me, man. I don't know what you want me to do.
Zoro takes Usopp to go find Kaya and take care of Django. During the fight with Luffy and Captain Kudo, we get a flashback of the day when Captain Kudo decided to quit being a pirate 3 years ago. The Black Cat pirates are being attacked by Marines for the 3rd time in a week, and Captain Kudo is sick of it. He goes onto the Marine ship and kills everyone by himself, but purposely leaves one Marine alive. And guess what? This guy is the soon-to-be Marine Captain Axe Hand Morgan from the first arc, and Captain Kudo is responsible for giving Morgan his iron jaw. Django hypnotizes one of their crew members into thinking he's Captain Kudo, and also hypnotizes Morgan into thinking he captured him and take him back to Marine headquarters to be executed. Luffy is pissed at Kudo for half-assing the life of a pirate and uses Rock Smash on him. We then cut to the Usopp pirates and Kaya running into the forest, and Django chases them. Back at the shore, Luffy keeps whacking Captain Kudo, and so he uses his ultimate technique, called the Out of the Back Attack. Yeah, he's not very good at coming up with names. I mean, his fake name is fucking Klahadore. The Out of the Back Attack is a technique that indiscriminately attacks everyone in the area. Captain Kudo moves so fast that he can't really tell what he's hitting, but he doesn't care and has no issues attacking his own crew. Of course, this pisses off Luffy that he'd attack his own men. We go back to the Usopp pirates and they devise a plan to take down Django. They do pretty well actually for a couple of kids, but soon they realize this isn't a Disney movie and Django immediately takes care of them. Kaya begs Django to stop and is willing to sign her will and die as long as he doesn't kill the kids. Eventually, Usopp and Zoro catch up to them and beat Django. At the same time, Luffy decides to forgive Captain Kudo for everything he's done with a kiss, but accidentally headbutts him instead. Then, the Black Cat pirates leave the village for good, and Usopp and the Straw Hats save the day. Kaya and the Usopp pirates tell Usopp that they should inform the village about what happened, but Usopp doesn't want the villagers to know, so things can continue as they were, as if it was all a lie.
And I seriously doubt that any more pirates like Kuro and his gang will show up. There's no reason for pirates to attack our out-of-the-way little village.
That's actually a perfectly good reason why someone would attack your village. Ever heard of Vinland Saga? They'll fuck your shit up.
Afterwards, the Usopp pirates have a meeting at their base, and they reminisce about the day they met and formed the Usopp pirates 5 years ago, where they were just goofing off going on small little adventures. Usopp says that after today's battle, he has decided that he'll leave the village and start his life as a pirate. He tells Onion, Carrot, and Pepper to follow their dreams as the Usopp pirates are hereby disbanded. Meanwhile, the Straw Hats are eating over at Meshi, and Kaya tells them that she has a gift for them as thanks for their help, and it's a ship that Mary made called the Going Merry. Usopp meets up with everyone and tells Kaya that he's gonna leave to pursue his dreams, and when he returns, he'll tell her stories of his crazy adventures that sound even more bizarre than his old lies. Usopp says his goodbyes to the Straw Hats and hopes to see them around at sea sometime, but Luffy and Zoro tell him to hop on board since they are friends, and with that, they gain a new member to the crew, Captain Usopp, and they set sail. Before the episode ends, Mary tells Kaya about Usopp's past and the whole reason he started lying. Not long after Yasopp left the village, Usopp's mom was sick, and just before she died, she told Usopp to be a brave and kind man like his father. Now all alone, Usopp constantly goes to the village screaming that pirates are coming in the hopes that one day his father will actually come home to see him. This story inspires Kaya to achieve her own dream of becoming a doctor, and the kids decide to carry on Usopp's legacy of screaming that the pirates are coming. To be continued. Baratie is 12 episodes and 24 chapters. The Straw Hats are sailing in their new ship. Luffy and Usopp decide to do some cannon practice on a nearby rock. Yeah, fuck that rock. All my homies hate that rock. Meanwhile, Zoro is sleeping and we get a flashback of his past. When Zoro was younger, he'd go around challenging dojos to prove he's the strongest, on his quest to become the world's greatest swordsman. He comes across his next victim and challenges the master for his dojo, but the master tells Zoro he'll fight his daughter Kuina instead.
All right, let us begin.
Jesus, Zoro was even more brain dead as a kid.
Kuina wins the fight, and Zoro decides to join the dojo for the sole purpose of beating Kuina.
Kuina with 2,000 total wins and 0 losses.
These kids have way too much free time. Read a book, like One Piece. Shit's good.
At night, Kuina's father tells her that even though she's good with the sword, she can never become the world's greatest because she's a girl. Well, duh. Girls have cooties. Ugh. Zoro finds Kuina and challenges her to their 2001 fight with real swords. Hey, maybe don't let children walk around with real swords? Once again, Zoro loses for the 2001 time, and he's frustrated he can't beat her no matter how hard he tries. Kuina says she's jealous of Zoro for being born a man and tells him that naturally Zoro will become stronger than her and how she can never achieve her dream. This pisses off Zoro. To him, it feels like an insult to all the hard work he's put in to beat her someday. Zoro doesn't care about whether someone's a boy or a girl. To him, what matters is skill.
Look at that. Zoro out here being progressive as fuck.
Zoro and Kuina decide to become rivals to see who will become the world's greatest swordsman someday. A while later, Zoro is training, and some of the students come up to him with the grim news that Kuina is dead. Well, that didn't last long. Zoro asks the dojo master if he can have Kuina's sword and swears that he'll work hard to become the world's greatest swordsman for the both of them. Kuina's dad agrees and gives him the Wado Ichimonji. Fun fact, in the manga, this flashback actually took place during Romance Dawn when Zoro was about to be executed. I actually prefer how it's handled in the anime. In the manga, it was only like a few pages and felt very rushed. We cut back to present day, and the crew decide that before they enter the Grand Line, they'll need a cook. Then a random dude comes barging in wanting to fight the Straw Hats. Turns out, it's Zoro's old bounty hunter buddy, Johnny. Johnny attacked the Straw Hats because him and his partner, Yosaku, were chilling on the mountain that Luffy and Usopp decided to blow up. After everything's cleared up, Johnny takes them to the sea restaurant Baratie to look for a cook. On the way to Baratie, they come across a marine ship led by Lieutenant Iron Fist Fullbody, who tells his men to sink the Going Merry. Luffy blocks the attack and accidentally fires at Baratie, hitting the head chef in his room. The cooks take Luffy to the owner of Baratie, head chef Zeph, who loves to disco.
The longer the hat, the better the cook, and the smaller the cack.
Chef Zeph tells Luffy he's gonna have to work for a whole year to pay off his debt. And so for the rest of this video, Luffy shall only be addressed as Chore Boy. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Fullbody and his date enjoy a relaxing meal. Fullbody tries to show off his culinary knowledge, but the sous chef embarrasses him, causing Fullbody to go full Karen mode, demanding the manager and to shut the place down, saying how he's the victim, nag, nag, nag. The sous chef is pissed that Fullbody would waste food, so he beats the shit out of him.
Man, Chili's is wild nowadays. I knew I should have just gone to Denny's or something.
Chef Patty comes in trying to stop the sous chef from killing Fullbody. Then Chore Boy and Chef Zeph fall from the ceiling. More shenanigans ensue as a Marine comes charging in covered in blood, telling Fullbody that the pirate they captured escaped and killed most of their men.
I'm sorry, Lieutenant.
Scratch that, all of his men. This is Geen, the right-hand man of the Krieg pirates. He's been starving for several days and wants to eat.
Of course, right away, but might I be so bold to inquire how you're paying for your meal? Will a bullet be enough?
Sir, this is a refined establishment, so it's actually going to be 3 bullets through my skull. Please.
Patty beats Geen and kicks him out of the restaurant, but then the sous chef makes some food for Geen. Now let me introduce to you Sanji, the cool-headed,
Arrogant assholes like you who think they're such big shots they can—
healthiest lungs, and the greatest gentleman you'll ever meet. Sanji is a man who will never let anyone go hungry regardless of their background, because he understands what it's like to go hungry at sea. After seeing this, Chore Boy decides he wants Sanji to join his crew. Geen goes back to his ship and tells his captain that he'll take them to Baratie. 4 days passed and the Krieg pirates arrive at Baratie, but their ship is in bad shape and all the men are slowly dying of hunger. Geen brings his captain, Don Krieg, the strongest man and ruler of East Blue, into the restaurant to eat. They beg, but nobody wants to make food for them. Then Sanji comes in and brings food to Don Krieg simply because he's hungry. And as thanks, Don Krieg gives Sanji a haymaker for the meal.
That food was absolutely delicious. Indeed. And how you be paying, sir? Where are my manners?
Don Krieg, the ruler of East Blue, is a ruthless man who had 5,000 men and 50 battleships. He was a prisoner that killed the captain of a marine ship on board and took it for himself. He'd pretend to be a normal marine ship when entering towns, just to attack the villages. For Don Krieg, anything goes if it means victory. Now at full strength, Don Krieg wants Baratie as his new ship, and demands the cooks make food for his remaining 100 men. All the cooks deny, but Sanji decides to make the food.
Order up for actual Hitler?
Of course, all the cooks try to stop Sanji, but then Chef Zeph comes in and gives Don Krieg the food. Don Krieg recognizes Chef Zeph as the former Redfoot Zeph, a powerful pirate and cook who sailed the Grand Line for a year. Don Krieg wants Chef Zeph's logbook detailing his adventures on the Grand Line. The reason Don Krieg's ship is so wrecked and the lack of men is because in 1 week of sailing the Grand Line, they lost all of their ships and most of their men to a single man with eyes like a hawk. Don Krieg feeds his men and tells them the plan for going back to the Grand Line.
Sir, why are we going back there?
Rule number 1 aboard Dawn Creek's ship. Never have an opinion or you will be shot.
The Krieg pirates go to attack Baratie, but before they can make it, out of nowhere their ship gets sliced in half and falls apart. The one responsible is the man who messed with them on the Grand Line. May I introduce to you Hawkeye Mihawk, the world's greatest swordsman. This is who Zoro has been looking for and needs to beat to achieve his and Kuina's dream. During all the commotion, Johnny and Yosaku tell the Straw Hats that Nami took the ship and the treasure for herself, leaving the Straw Hat crew. When asked why he destroyed all the ships, Hawkeye says it was just all for the lulz. Hilarious, but dick move, Hawkeye. Zoro challenges Mihawk for the title of world's greatest swordsman. Unfortunately, Zoro loses the fight, realizing he's not as strong as he thinks, but he earns the respect of Mihawk. Hawkeye tells Zoro to train hard and seek him out someday for another chance at the title. Zoro then apologizes to Chorboy for being so weak and swears to the future King of Pirates that from this day forward, he'll never lose again, and one day he'll defeat Hawkeye Mihawk. Don Krieg decides that he wants some character development too, and challenges Mihawk to a fight, but Hawkeye leaves because he's bored. The chefs prepare to fight the Krieg pirates, and Chorboy makes a deal with Chef Zeph that if he beats the Krieg pirates, then he doesn't have to work at Baratie anymore.
What if we come across someone like Hawkeye Mihawk again? Then what'll we do?
Never ask logical questions. Rule number 1, guys, come on. This is basic stuff.
The cooks reveal that Baratie is actually a freaking transformer and open up the fins, making it easier to fight. Then, Patty and Carne use the fish head of Baratie as their motherfucking battleship and attack Don Krieg. That fails horribly, and Don Krieg throws the ship towards Baratie, but Sanji goes to stop it.
Huh, I wonder what Sanji can do. Because Luffy can stretch, Zoro uses swords, Nami steals, and Usopp shits his pants. A lot. So what's left?
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Sanji kicks, and he's so flexible. His yoga instructor must be proud. There's a lot of back and forth between the cooks and the Krieg pirates, but the cooks manage to get the upper hand until...
It's only fair I give you a warning. I am Pearl, the invincible shield!
Just like the Meowbon brothers from Syrup Village, this is my least favorite part of this arc.
They eventually take down Pearl.
Thank God.
But Gin has taken Chef Zeph hostage and asks Sanji to stop and let them have Baratie. Pearl wakes up.
Oh, come on.
And attacks Sanji. We then get a flashback 10 years ago when Sanji was 9 years old as an apprentice cook aboard a cruise ship. Lil Sanji talks about his dream of finding the All Blue, an ocean where all the fish in the world gather together. It's known as a cook's paradise. The other cooks tell him it's just an urban legend, as the world is divided into 4 seas: the North, South, East, and West Blue, making it impossible for them to connect because of the Red Line. During a storm, some pirates raid the cruise ship, and it's Redfoot Zeph of all people. Lil Sanji defends himself, but he's fighting a grown-ass man, so that doesn't work out too well. Then the storm pushes little Sanji off into the ocean, and Zeph goes to save him, but his leg gets caught in some debris, and so he uses an anchor to cut off his leg, ending his career as a pirate. I want to come back to this moment later because this isn't actually how Redfoot Zeph lost his leg. Much later, little Sanji wakes up in the middle of nowhere next to Zeph. Zeph says they got to look out for ships on opposite sides of the island. They share an equal portion of food while they wait. Many days pass and there's no ships in sight. Lil Sanji runs out of food in just 20 out of 70 days. This teaches Lil Sanji the importance of not wasting food, as earlier he would throw away leftovers. This is why he hates people who waste food. Hungry and full of anger, Lil Sanji goes to steal Zeph's food with the intent to kill, but when Lil Sanji opens the bag, it's revealed that it's just treasure and Zeph gave Lil Sanji all the food they had.
Wait, they have a bunch of money. Why don't they just buy... Oh.
Remember how Redfoot Zeph cut his leg off using the anchor to save Lil Sanji? Well, that's not how it actually happened. In the manga, when Zeph and Lil Sanji were on the island, Zeph actually smashes his own leg with a rock and eats it so he doesn't starve to death, which is way more hardcore than cutting it off with an anchor. Eventually, little Sanji and Zeph are rescued, and Zeph decides as his final purpose in life, he'd open up a restaurant in the middle of the ocean to prevent others from getting into situations like this. Pearl wakes up again and charges at Luffy and Sanji. Oh my god, I wish someone would just one-shot this piece of shit.
You're a wizard.
Gin decides that he wants to kill Sanji himself.
Then it will be an absolute pleasure to kill you, my good friend.
I don't think Gin understands how friendship works.
They fight and it's pretty even, but Gin gets the upper hand. Gin can't bring himself to kill Sanji because of what he did for him. Gin apologizes to Don Krieg for not obeying his orders, and asks if they can just leave the ship alone. And Don Krieg ain't too fond of that suggestion. Don Krieg fires a poison gas called the MH5. The Krieg pirates put on their gas masks, and the cooks dive underwater. Choi Boy steals some face masks and gives them to Sanji and Gin. Then another face mask coincidentally shows up next to Chore Boy. The smoke settles and Gin is the only one suffering from the poison gas because he gave his gas mask to Chore Boy. Gin didn't want to take it as his own punishment for disobeying Don Krieg. Don Krieg laughs at Gin and then Chore Boy goes to fight him. Probably the best moment of this entire fight is when Chore Boy gets hit by a bunch of poison darts. He gets ready to hit Don Krieg, but Don Krieg pulls out a metal sheet covered in spikes. Chore Boy doesn't care and punches right through the spikes. Damn! Don Krieg pulls out a bunch of different weapons, like a spear, small explosives, a fucking flamethrower, and a steel net. But that won't stop good old Chore Boy. He grabs Don Krieg and finishes him off. And so now we can finally go back to calling him Luffy. Before they can celebrate, Don Krieg attacks in an unconscious rage, but Gin stops him and they leave Baratie for good.
You don't owe me any favors, but when the kid wakes up, tell him I said I'll see him on the Grand Line.
Later, Luffy wakes up and Sanji tells him the Krieg pirates left. Luffy asks Sanji if he'll join his crew, but Sanji declines, saying he won't leave for the Grand Line until he's repaid his debt to Zeph for saving his life. Then we get my favorite scene in this entire arc. Sanji turns to Luffy with this big smile and asks if he's heard of the All Blue. This is a really wholesome moment because Sanji has this genuine smile that we rarely ever see, and he's just gushing about his passions. Later, everyone digs in, but Luffy and Sanji show up and everyone gives them the cold shoulder and tells them to sit on the floor.
Are we sure this isn't just my middle school?
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
All the chefs complain about the soup that Sanji made, saying it's garbage, and even Zeph thinks it's horrible.
Don't flatter yourself!
There's a fine line between tough love and abuse, and I feel like 9 times out of 10 in anime, it's just straight up abuse.
Once Sanji leaves, the cooks admit that the soup is actually really good, but they lied because he's too stubborn to listen to reason. Then Chef Zeph asks Luffy to take Sanji with him to the Grand Line so he can follow his dreams. While Sanji is chilling outside, he gets attacked by Yosaku, casually being eaten by a shark. Tuesdays, am I right? Yosaku tells Luffy that he figured out where Nami is heading with the ship, and before they leave, Sanji tells Luffy that he'll join the Straw Hats. And so now, Sanji has joined the party. Sanji leaves without saying goodbye, but Chef Zeph simply tells Sanji to take care of himself. Then, in a burst of emotion, Sanji tearfully says thank you to Zeph for everything he's done. Then they head off to get Nami back. Speaking of Nami, before the episode ends, we see her heading into an island that has some weird building attached to it. Stay tuned next time as we visit Nami's hometown of Kokoyashi Village. To be continued. Arlong Park is 14 episodes and 27 chapters, making it the longest arc within the East Blue Saga. We start off with Team Luffy sailing to Nami's hometown, and Yosaku tells them about the dangerous Arlong, a powerful fishman with 20 million berries who's much stronger than Don Krieg and is in control of 20 different villages within the East Blue, including Nami's hometown. We also learn about the 7 warlords of the sea. 7 powerful pirates who were selected by the world government to stop other pirates in exchange for not being captured. Hawkeye Mihawk is one of these warlords, so we already know these guys are bad news bears. The boys decide to eat, but they're immediately greeted by this abomination of mankind known as Momu, who wants some of the grub. Meanwhile, at Kokoyashi Village, we visit the infamous Arlong Park. The Marine Captain Nezumi is finishing up a deal with our main antagonist, Arlong, a fishman who hates most humans as he sees them as inferior creatures to the fishman race.
Now, if you think Arlong is racist, just wait till we get to Fishman Island. That entire arc is all about racism. And cute mermaids.
We also meet Hachi, one of Arlong's commanders and the second best fishman in the entire series. Outside of Arlong Park, Nami is slowly heading over, but is stopped by a kid who wants to kill Arlong for killing his father and friends.
Arlong's going to die today!
Why does this show hate kids so much?
Nami goes to Arlong Park, and we learn that she's actually a member of Arlong's crew, and just use the Straw Hats to get their money.
Damn, I guess Nami really likes seafood.
Meanwhile, we check up on Zoro's team. They arrive near Arlong Park and Zoro wants to pull a Leroy Jenkins on him. But Usopp and Johnny don't really feel like dying right now, so they tie him up. They decide to parallel park at Kokoyashi, but come across some fishmen. So Usopp and Johnny decide to be assholes and abandon Zoro, who gets caught by the fishmen. Usopp and Johnny arrive at the neighboring village of Gosa. This town was destroyed due to Arlong and his men, and is where that kid from earlier used to live. One of the fishermen catches up to Usopp and chases him, but Johnny escaped just in time. On the run, Usopp comes across the boy from earlier and a blue-haired Nami. The fishman catches up and Usopp tries to attack, but the blue-haired Nami gives him a good bonk. Afterwards, the fishman who captured Zoro takes him to Arlong Park and he learns the truth about Nami. Nami tells Zoro she doesn't care about the Straw Hats, so Zoro makes the appropriate response of diving into the ocean. Yeesh, what a drama queen. Nami saves Zoro, and after teaching him the values of life, they lock him up. Afterwards, Usopp wakes up at the blue-haired Nami's home. Her name is Nojiko, and she's Nami's stepsister. Nojiko tells Usopp about Nami working for Arlong.
I can't stand this! I have to avenge my father! I don't care if I die! Then die.
Oh my god, give him a break. This kid is literally going through like a villain's backstory right now.
After Arlong leaves, Nami frees Zoro and tells him to go before Arlong comes back. Arlong and his men arrive in Kokoyashi village to talk to Genzo, the sheriff of Kokoyashi, about his weapon stash, as Arlong sees it as a potential rebellion. Arlong decides to kill Genzo as an example to anyone who tries to rebel. Luckily, the brave Demon King Usopp stops him just in time. Unluckily, Arlong is extremely pissed and chucks a whole fucking house.
Am I dead yet?
He's not dead yet!
Son of a bitch!
Later, Nojiko finds Nami at their stepmother's grave, and we learn the whole reason Nami is gathering 100 million berries is so she can buy back Kokoyashi and stop Arlong from controlling it, and she only needs 7 million more. Back at Arlong Park, Zoro basically tells Nami to fuck herself by killing the fishmen at Arlong Park and waits for Luffy to arrive. Yeesh, what a drama queen. Speaking of Luffy, his team used their new slave to make it to Kokoyashi village. Back to Usopp freaking the fuck out, he eventually escapes from the fishmen, but after some small hijinks, he gets caught by Chu, one of Arlong's commanders. Back at Arlong Park, Zoro comes across Hachi, who has no idea that Zoro killed the fishman. He's kinda stupid. And thinks he's a guest, so he takes him back to Kokoyashi. Arlong comes back and finds a bunch of his men dead, but one of them tells Arlong that Zoro was responsible.
Arlong's one redeeming quality is that he actually cares about his crew, unlike the previous antagonists who couldn't care less and would actively attack them like Don Krieg or Captain Kudo.
Chu comes back with Usopp, and while Arlong is thinking of how to kill him, Kurobi, Arlong's third commander, finds out that Zoro was freed and suspects Nami did it. Nami calls BS on the situation, and during all the commotion, Usopp tries to escape, but Nami runs after and stabs Usopp.
I have several questions.
Usopp stares at all the blood on his hands and falls into the water, bleeding out. Usopp is now dead, and Johnny saw the whole thing.
Holy shit! They just killed an important character in the series. This is insane. How many more episodes do we have left? Oh. Well, never mind then.
Once Zoro arrives at Kokoyashi, the villagers tell him that Usopp was captured, and so he heads back to Arlong Park. But this time, he quite literally runs into Team Luffy. What a reunion. Zoro tells them that Usopp was captured, but before they can do anything, Johnny arrives with the grim news that Nami killed Usopp. But then we immediately cut to Usopp being alive! The truth is, Nami actually stabbed her own hand to make it look like Usopp was the one bleeding. Nami still cares about the Straw Hats, but her 8-year goal of saving Kokoyashi comes first.
Now that is a girl boss.
Speaking of Nami, she runs into the Straw Hats and tells them to leave, or Arlong will kill them all.
I'm the kind of man who always keeps my promises when it comes to money. Always.
I don't know what it is, but something's telling me he doesn't keep his promises.
After Nami leaves, Usopp shows up to stop Zoro and Sanji from creating an extremely toxic fanbase, but he's a bit too late. Usopp tells them the truth about Nami, and blue-haired Nojiko, shows up and tells them why Nami joined the Arlong Pirates. It all started 8 years ago with a certain woman named Bellamere. But before the flashback starts, Luffy dips and Zoro falls asleep because they don't care about their friend's 8-year-long depression story.
I honestly feel like Luffy would be the worst therapist in the world.
8 years ago in Kokoyashi Village, we see Mini Nami drawing a map of Konomi Island, and we learn that her true dream is to one day draw a map of the whole world, and her home island is the first step.
Wait, y'all don't have a world map? Sucks to be you. We've had that shit since like the 6th century.
Mini Nami tries to steal some books, but gets caught by Genzo, who takes her back home to Bellamere, an ex-marine who's tough as nails, but has a heart of gold. Mini Nami's family is very poor and can't afford much, but they do their best to get by as a family, and Bellamere constantly encourages Mini Nami to achieve her dream. Also, Nojiko's there too, I guess. One rainy day while the girls are eating, Nojiko and Mini Nami get into a fight. Mini Nami says they aren't actually a family biologically, and then with the might of Zeus himself, Bellamere slaps Mini Nami harder than Luffy has ever hit anyone. Like, goddamn. Bellamere tells Nami something like that doesn't matter, but Mini Nami says Bellamere probably wishes she didn't have kids so she wouldn't be so poor, and then leaves wishing she was adopted by a Richie Rich's family down the street or something. Mini Nami stops by Genzo's office, and Genzo tells Mini Nami the story of how Bellamere adopted her and Nojiko. Flashback within a flashback! Back when Bellamere was a Marine, she was a part of a small war. On the brink of death, Bellamere accepts her fate, but before she dies, she hears the cries of a baby in the distance. She comes across a 3-year-old Nojiko carrying some random newborn baby. No clue who that could be. Filled with a new purpose, Bellamere takes the kids back to Kokoyashi Village and decides that she'll raise them both as their mother. Afterwards, Nojiko comes to pick up Mini Nami and they head back home.
I think it makes everyone in the village happy to see those girls grow up so full of life.
Pirates are coming!
The Arlong Pirates arrive, saying that Kokoyashi is now under their control, and all the villagers must pay a monthly fee of 100k berries per adult and 50k berries per child, or die.
Those who cannot pay will die!
The villagers pay and Arlong starts to leave, but then one of the fishmen points out smoke from the middle of the forest coming from Bellamere's house. Nami and Nojiko run back home, and the Arlong Pirates head over to collect her money. Arlong shows up at Bellamere's house, but then Bellamere pulls an MLG Pro 360 no-scope, nothing but man World Star Baja Blast in the ass attack! God, she's awesome. Unfortunately, that didn't work.
Just another beautiful day in Kokoyashi. I should move. Like, now.
Arlong spares Bellamere and tells her to pay the 100k berries to live. Luckily, they have no idea she has kids, as she can't afford the full 200k. Bellamere pays and the pirates slowly leave, but then Bellamere says that the money isn't for her. It's for her 2 daughters and she can't pay for herself. For Bellamere, she would rather die than say she's not a mother to Mini Nami and Nojiko. Then Mini Nami and Nojiko run up crying to Bellamere and embrace her. All the villagers fight back, but the fishmen easily take them down. Arlong prepares to shoot Bellamere for being unable to pay, and before she dies, her final words to Mini Nami and Nojiko are simply,
"Love
Maybe a bad time to do a comparison right now, but in the manga, she's actually shot in the head rather than in the chest. But if we want to go the safe route, in the American 4Kids version, she's locked in a dungeon, because that's totally better, right? Afterwards, Hachi finds Mini Nami's map and Arlong gets intrigued, so they bring her along with them. Moments later, the villagers decide to fight Arlong to the death, but Mini Nami shows up saying she's joined the Arlong Pirates because they give her lots of money and let her draw maps, as she doesn't want to die for being poor like Bellemere. Disgusted by her actions, Genzo tells Mini Nami to never return to the village. At night, Nojiko finds Mini Nami at Bellemere's grave, and Mini Nami explains how she made a deal with Arlong that if she can gather 100 million berries, however long it takes, then she can buy back Kokoyashi Village and everyone will be safe. This is why Nami is a thief. For 8 years since she was 10, Nami has been fending for herself as a member of the Arlong Pirates, drawing maps for them and stealing money from pirates like Alvida, Buggy, and Captain Kudo, all for the sake of saving her village someday. We come back to present day. Nami is getting ready for her last trip towards 100 million berries, but she finds Genzo with Captain Nezumi walking towards her. Nezumi tells Nami that he knows about her stolen 93 million berries buried within the Tangerine Grove, and wants to confiscate it as property of the government. Nami is confused as to how Nezumi knows the exact amount. Then she realizes that Arlong told him about it, and Nezumi gets to have 30%. Nami, Genzo, and Nojiko try to stop them, but in the confusion, Nezumi shoots Nojiko. They bring Nojiko back to the doctor, and then Nami goes full Usain Bolt, my parents aren't home, come over type speed towards Arlong Park to ask Arlong why he broke the agreement. Arlong says he technically never broke the agreement and she should just try again. Of course, Arlong has no intentions of letting Nami leave him and wants her to make maps for him until he builds his empire. Meanwhile, the villagers decide enough is enough and want to fight Arlong to the death. Again. Nami tells them that everything is fine and she'll just work towards getting the money again, but the villagers ignore her and run off ready for battle. Full of despair, Nami stares at the very tattoo that symbolizes her allegiance with Arlong. In a fit of uncontrollable rage, she stabs herself repeatedly, cursing Arlong's name as she can't do anything to stop him. Luffy stops her and Nami tells him to leave, but Luffy won't budge. With no options left, Nami asks one simple favor.
Luffy, help me.
After saying the secret password, Luffy gives Nami his straw hat and swears Arlong will pay. May I introduce to you the walk to Arlong Park, one of the most iconic moments in the entire series. There's nothing really special about this moment out of context, but the emotion and reasoning behind it is what cemented this as the moment when most people become fans of One Piece. Also, keep in mind, Luffy has absolutely no idea the details of what Nami's going through. To him, he doesn't care about someone's past. Nami is a friend and he'll do anything to help her. All he needs to know is, who hurt you and where are they?
I honestly feel like Luffy would be the greatest therapist in the world.
As Arlong laughs, Luffy kindly knocks on the door and simply asks which one is Arlong.
Motherfucker!
The battle between the Straw Hats and Fishmen begin. Hachi summons their sea creature, and it turns out it's Momu. Momu sees Luffy and Sanji and gets Vietnam flashbacks, then leaves. But not before Luffy pulls a sick Dead or Alive reference. Unfortunately, this causes Luffy to get stuck, and Arlong uses this as an opportunity to plunge Luffy into the bottom of the ocean. Now this battle is a race to save Luffy. Our matches are set. Zoro versus Hachi, Sanji versus Karubi, and the accidental Usopp versus Chu. During the fights, Genzo and Nojiko go to help free Luffy. Meanwhile, Zoro's match isn't looking too good, as he still badly hurts from his fight with Mihawk.
Now you may tremble in fear at Hachi's way of 6 blades!
Ah, shit, Zoro's down. Well, how's Sanji doing? Oh god. Okay, it's fine. At least we can always count on Usopp. Oh, come on. Thankfully, Zoro gets up, remembering the promise he made to Mihawk. Then he beats Hachi with his new attack, the Tatsumaki. Sanji gets up and decides that he'll save Luffy, so he goes underwater, and Karubi follows since he has the advantage. Meanwhile, Nami heads over to join the battle. Karubi demolishes Sanji and shit-talks his fedora-wearing neckbeard obsession for Nami.
he should be dead from that. Like, he actually should be dead from that.
Eventually, Sanji gets out of the water and he pulls off a sick 7-hit combo on Karubi for his queen, winning the fight. Back to Usopp, he was actually playing dead on a pile of ketchup and just waiting for Chu to leave. While coming up with an excuse for running away, Usopp thinks about everyone who's risking their lives to save Nami, and thinks back on how the whole reason he left his village was to not be a coward anymore. He decides to continue the fight with Chu. Yeah, that's my man. Let's go, Usopp, you got this. Well, that was anticlimactic. But Usopp gets back up and swears that in this moment he's done pretending to be a pirate. And with enough luck and wit, he manages to beat Chu. Usopp's first real victory. All that's left is the big bad himself. But Arlong easily takes care of Zoro and Sanji. Nami shows up saying she's done with Arlong, but Arlong gives her a choice. No matter what, the Straw Hats die. But either she chooses to stay with him and the villagers live, or she can fight and everyone dies. Nami decides to believe in the Straw Hats and chooses to fight. Then Sanji dives back into the water to free Luffy while Zoro buys some time.
How can he still be alive with a body like this?
He should be dead. That's anime logic for you.
Hachi wakes up and tries to stop Sanji, but his wounds open up and he falls. Then Sanji breaks the stone and Luffy is freed. Luffy switches places with Zoro and the final battle between Luffy and Arlong for the fate of Nami and the East Blue begins. My favorite part of this fight is how Luffy mentions that he's unable to do anything without his crew. He can't use swords, he can't cook or navigate, nor does he shit his pants every 5 minutes. But he can fight for his friends. Things are actually going pretty well for Luffy, but then Arlong gets the crazy eyes and throws Luffy into Arlong Park. They end up in the map room. This is where Nami was forced to draw sea charts for Arlong's ambitions for 8 long years. Trapped like a bird in a cage, unable to see everyone, and wishing Bellemere was still around.
So Nami will forever be my tool. Or no, she'll be my friend.
I don't think I would want to be friends with someone who looked like that.
Luffy sees the bloody pen that Nami used and decides that the only way to save Nami is to destroy her prison, known as Arlong Park. Like 2 birds with 1 stone, Luffy takes down Arlong and destroys Arlong Park in the process. Once the dust settles, Luffy emerges from the rubble and tells Nami that no matter what, she'll always be his friend. And with that, Arlong Park is destroyed. Nami and the villagers of Kokoyashi are saved. But then Nezumi decides to cock-block the fun and demands he get his money. But Zoro and Nami kick his ass and Nezumi leaves, but swears he'll make Luffy pay somehow. With Arlong Park gone, the villagers decide to party non-stop for 3 days and 3 nights.
Why did this happen before my daddy died? Why is life so unfair?
Your dad died. I'm sorry, but Nojiko is actually a bitch sometimes.
Meanwhile, Nami asks the doctor to remove her tattoo for a new one, and we learn that Nojiko got her tattoo so Nami wouldn't feel alone. Alright, Nojiko, you win this round. Later that night, Nami is getting ready to head out and decides to leave the 93 million berries for the village. Then staring at a photo of Bellemere, she reminisces about the good times with her family and lets Bellemere know that she'll be okay, and from now on she'll work hard to achieve her dreams with her new friends. Also, why the fuck is Bellemere there? The next day, the Straw Hats are getting ready, but Nami's not around yet. Then at last minute, Nami tells the Straw Hats to set sail while she runs without saying goodbye to the villagers. She makes it to the ship and reveals her greatest magic trick of stealing everyone's wallets. I never said Nami was a good person. Nami rejoins the crew and they set sail. But before the episode ends, the doctor shows Genzo Nami's new tattoo of a tangerine and a pinwheel to represent her parental figures. Speaking of which, the whole reason Genzo wore a pinwheel is because when Nami was a baby, she was scared of Genzo, so he decided to wear a pinwheel on his head to make her smile. Now that Nami is truly happy again, Genzo simply doesn't need it anymore. To be continued. LogueTown is 9 episodes and 5 chapters. Wait, really? That's it? Well, alright. We start off with the Straw Hats sailing around and Nami screams at a bird about how much she hates inflation. Meanwhile, Usopp is burning alive and Sanji remains the champion of all simps. Pretty standard Tuesday for the Straw Hats. Nami is reading a newspaper and out comes a wanted poster for none other than Monkey D. Luffy, the future king of the pirates worth 30 million berries, making him the most wanted man in the entire East Blue. Oh hey, hey, and Usopp's there too. This was all Nezumi's doing. His way of getting back at the Straw Hats for what happened at Arlong Park was to make Luffy a wanted man all across the world. But it backfired because the boys are happy to be wanted by the world government.
You haven't made it in life unless the government hires a bunch of people to kill you and your friends for a large sum of money.
The Marines discuss Luffy's rising threat to the world government.
If there is evil on the seas, then we, the Marines, must drive it away with the utmost prejudice. In the name of absolute peace! Yes, sir!
Hey, does anybody know where I can find like a Walgreens around here? I'm trying to pick up my prescription.
Then we revisit the towns and villages of the Straw Hats. Everyone's living peacefully and excited that their loved ones are out living their dreams. We even see some old villains too.
I love it when One Piece shows us a little bit of what everyone else in the world is up to, and their reaction to what the Straw Hats have accomplished. It's very wholesome and reminds us just how big the One Piece world really is by not solely focusing on the Straw Hats' journey.
Smoke 'em.
Sword has been eliminated, ma'am. Nothing to worry about. Go back to your business.
Speaking of people, freaking Hawkeye Mihawk goes to an island to visit an old friend about Luffy's wanted poster. And it's fucking Shanks of all people. What the fuck?
These pants used to be white before I watched this.
The Straw Hats are eating some grub, and Nami asks Luffy what he thinks happened to Buggy. And speak of the devil, we leave the Straw Hats for a bit to follow our short king, Buggy the Clown, on his journey to reclaim his missing parts and crew to exact his revenge on Luffy. Buggy eventually lands at a familiar place. That's right, Buggy landed on Gaimon's island, and Gaimon thinks Buggy wants to poach the animals, so they fight. And what ensues is a battle that makes the likes of Naruto vs Sasuke, Goku vs Jiren, and all of One Punch Man look like MS Paint garbage in the face of these behemoths. Gaimon and Buggy decide not to destroy the planet and become best friends. They talk about the pirate life, and Buggy even asks Gaimon if he'd join his crew.
That makes me so happy. But these animals are my family now. We've been together for 20 years.
He's definitely fucking the animals.
Buggy sets sail but is attacked by a giant crab. Luckily, he's saved by a strange, beautiful woman who looks oddly familiar. The strange woman says she's also looking for Luffy, so they work together to find Buggy's missing parts and crew. Speaking of Buggy's crew, we visit them on a small island having a funeral for their totally dead captain. But then Kabji and Moji decide to have a dick measuring contest to see who'll be the new captain of the Buggy Pirates. In Fire Emblem, they have a weapon triangle to determine which weapon works best on which enemy. Swords beat axes, axes beat lances, and lances beat swords. So basically what I'm trying to say is,
how the fuck does a whip break a sword?
The fight continues all throughout the day, but then Richie beats both of them while sleeping and becomes the new captain of the Buggy Pirates. But things turn from bad to worse when the cannibal Bear Claw tribe comes and attacks the Buggy Pirates. Buggy and the woman arrive on the island. They see Kabji and Moji all beaten up, and Buggy asks who kicked their asses. Before they could answer, the woman mentions that it was probably the Bear Claw tribe, so they go to greet them. The Bear Claw tribe are getting ready to eat Buggy's crew along with his missing parts, but then his thighs come to life and start attacking the Bear Claw tribe.
Fighting evil by moonlight, winning love by daylight, never running from a real fight. She is the one named Sailor Moon.
Buggy is now back in action and ready to conquer the world.
Captain, what orders do you have for us?
To find and kill Monkey D. Luffy!
Woo! Yeah, let's kill Luffy! Wait, when I first watched this, I completely thought it was filler for years because it took us away from the main characters. But apparently, Buggy's adventure is actually canon.
In the manga, Oda does these things called cover pages at the beginning of a chapter. They show a random character from the series in some funny or wholesome what-if scenario. But he also does this thing called cover stories, where the beginning of each chapter shows a certain character going on a small little adventure. These are actually canon to the story because a lot of these characters make a return. and the cover stories are supposed to show us how they got to that point, which is really cool and once again expands the world by giving us a small glimpse into the lives of all these characters besides our main cast. Anyways, Luffy and the crew find LogueTown, and Nami tells Luffy that LogueTown is the city where Gold Roger was both born and executed, making it known as the city of the beginning and the end, for pirates moving from the peaceful East Blue to the dangerous Grand Line. The Straw Hats land and go on their separate adventures. Nami goes shopping, Sanji is simping, and Usopp's looking for supplies.
Well, I'm gonna find out where they kill people.
The Marines get word that Luffy is on the island and they contact Captain Smoker, and judging by his name, has a severe smoking problem.
Hey, I got ice cream!
You better slow down or you're gonna drop it, okay?
Oh god, please not another child. This anime has beaten way too many children.
I'm sorry, my silly pants have eaten all your ice cream. Here, go buy yourself 5 scoops.
Introducing Captain Smoker. He's a tough Marine who overall hates pirates and plays by his own rules, but has a soft spot reminding us that not all Marines are bad guys, and that technically the pirates are really the bad guys in this anime. At first, Smoker confuses a random pirate for Luffy, but in a case of dramatic irony, he finds Luffy who's looking for the execution platform, and Smoker shows him the way. Luffy comes across an old bar named Gold Roger and heads inside to talk to the owner. The owner says he's closing down the bar for good because all pirates have become little crybaby bitches now, but then they geek about the good old days of Gold Roger. Luffy says he'll be the next king of the pirates, and when the owner looks at Luffy, he is reminded of Gold Roger. The two then have a toast to the future king of the pirates. Smoker visits the bar and reminisces about the day Gold Roger was executed 22 years ago after becoming the king of the pirates. Gold Roger is seen walking towards the execution platform accepting his death like it was a victory parade. But before they commence the execution, the bravest man in the entire world who's basically responsible for starting the whole series asks Gold Roger where the One Piece is. Gold Roger gives a hearty laugh and simply says,
You want my treasure?
Just shut your mouth.
You can have it. I left everything I gathered in one place. Now you just have to find it.
And with those final words, Gold Roger, the king of the pirates, dies with a smile on his face, and everyone celebrates.
Wait, I'm confused. Are we celebrating because he's dead or because the One Piece is real? I'm kind of getting mixed signals here.
Back to the present, Smoker realizes that the kid with the straw hat was Monkey D. Luffy, so he heads over to the execution platform. Meanwhile, Zoro is out looking for new swords and realizes deep inside how cringy this is. He hears some commotion and spots 2 pirates yelling at some girl. They attack, but she easily takes them down, but pulls a Velma and drops her glasses. Zoro picks up the glasses, but when he sees the girl, she looks exactly like Kuina. Naturally, he breaks the glasses cause nerds need to learn their place. She gets mad and takes Zoro back to Marine headquarters to pay off his debt with no knowledge of who he actually is. That's right, her name is Tashigi and she's the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Marines. I don't know what that means either. Speaking of rankings, the Marines have a total of 19 different ranks. At the bottom is Chore Boy for people who just enlisted like Kobe. Tashigi is ranked 12th in the Marines and Smoker is ranked 6th with the title of Captain. Back to Luffy, he found the execution platform and decides to climb on it because he's brain dead, but the local bully, Captain Smoker, tells him that if he wants to enter the Grand Line, he has to beat Smoker, who ironically wants all the smoke. Smoker easily takes down Luffy, who then pulls a Team Rocket blasting off somewhere into LogueTown. While Zoro cleans with 3 mops, he gets ambushed by a few Marines and then leaves. He goes back to the sword shop and asks the swordsmith if he could buy 2 swords for about 10 bucks. Before the swordsmith kicks Zoro out, he notices his Wado Ichimonji and starts moaning like a horny monkey because he's so excited about holding a legendary sword. The swordsmith tries to buy the sword off Zoro, but Tashigi comes to the shop and talks about the sword's true value. In One Piece, swords have ranks, cause why the fuck not? At the bottom are grade swords with an unknown number of them. There's 50 skillful grade swords, 21 great grade swords, and 12 supreme grade swords, the highest rank. Hawkeye's Black Blade is a supreme grade, and Zoro's Wado Ichimonji is a great grade that could be sold for 10 million berries.
Cool. Who fucking cares?
The shop owner tells Zoro that he can buy 2 swords from a pile in a barrel, and he comes across the Sandai Kitetsu 3, a cursed grade sword. All who have used it have died tragic deaths. Of course, Zoro gets off to that edgy shit and decides to test his luck with the sword. The shop owner fangirls over Zoro, just like me, and gives him the best sword he owns, the Yubashiri, one of the 50 grade swords. So now, Zoro is ready for the grand line. Meanwhile, Smoker is chillin' back at base waiting for Luffy to make a move, but then comes a man named Daddy the Father, an ex-marine turned bounty hunter who captures low-level crooks to earn enough money for him and his daughter.
How you doing, Smoker?
Well, if it isn't Daddy.
Back to the lovable Usopp, he's out shopping and finds some neat goggles that could help him get more kills in COD, but he can't find his wallet, and then a girl comes in and immediately buys the goggles. Usopp starts screaming at the young girl, saying how he's a dangerous pirate worth 30 million berries. Unfortunately for him, she's the daughter of Daddy the Father, who tells him about Usopp's supposed bounty. Daddy, wow, I'm actually gonna say that in this video, sees Usopp in Luffy's wanted poster and says it technically counts, so they have a good old Englishman's duel at the cemetery. Usopp chickens out like a normal person, but Daddy tells Usopp that he knows his father Yasopp, and we get a flashback of their duel back when Daddy was a marine. Yasopp wins and Daddy tells Yasopp to finish him, but before he can, Yasopp takes Daddy's necklace and sees a picture of his daughter, and decides to spare him because he knows it's important to live for your family despite him leaving his to pursue a life of piracy. After hearing this story, Usopp gets a wave of courage and wants to challenge Daddy again to prove he's a man like his father was. Daddy accepts but changes the rules. He tells Usopp to hit the weather vane and he'll win. If he misses, then Usopp is gonna get a whole lot uglier. Usopp manages to hit the weather vane. Daddy the Father congratulates him and his daughter gives Usopp the goggles. Now Usopp is ready for the grand line. Back to Mr. 50% of OnlyFans income, Sanji is walking and comes across a lady who says she's been searching for Sanji for 10 years, and what the actual gates of demonic hellfire is this? She wants to challenge Sanji to a cook-off to prove she's the best cook in the East Blue, and hold up!
I recognize this smell anywhere. This is filler!
That's right, a good chunk of LogueTown in the anime is actually filler. We've all been lied to. Most people's reactions to Luffy's bounty? Filler. Luffy at the bar? Filler. Daddy the Father? Filler. Not a real character. Sanji in a dumb cooking competition? Thank God that's filler. Hell, even Gold Roger's execution flashback is filler. It's a real event that started the series, but didn't happen in the chapters that these episodes adapted. What actually happens is Sanji just comes across a dude's fishing shop and buys the bluefin tuna instead of taking part in an episode-long cooking competition to get it. Luffy comes back to the execution platform and stands on it. The lady who's been with Buggy shows up and reveals to Luffy that she's Alvida from way back in episode 1.
It was Alvida all along? Gosh, what a shocker. Honestly though, Alvida, you gotta tell me your skincare and workout routine, because this is the glow up of the century.
Alvida says she ate a devil fruit known as the smooth fruit. Her entire body is so smooth that nothing can hurt her, and all her fat just came off, making her Barbie doll skinny like most females in One Piece. Buggy then makes his flashy entrance and swears that Monkey D. Luffy will die today. Kabaji pins down Luffy and a storm starts to hit. All the Marines are in hiding, ready for action, but Smoker tells them to wait until Luffy dies. The Straw Hats learn that Luffy is about to be executed, so Zoro and Sanji head over while Nami and Usopp run back to the ship. Before Buggy kills Luffy, Luffy declares that he'll become the king of the pirates someday. Zoro and Sanji show up and run towards the platform, but Luffy simply apologizes to his crewmates and accepts his death with a smile, just like Gold Roger did. But with the power of bullshit main character plot armor, Buggy gets shocked before he can strike Luffy and the platform falls. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji escape, and the Marines show up and start fighting the Buggy pirates. Smoker swears that he will not let Luffy off this island. Meanwhile, a strange man is walking in the rain. Buggy and Alvida use this opportunity to apply for the next Mario Kart game and chase after Luffy, but they get caught by Smoker, who reveals his devil fruit known as the Plume fruit, which turns his body into smoke. So all those cigars make 2% more sense. The boys come across Tashigi, who wants to fight Zoro and take his Wado Ichimonji from him, as she believes no criminals should have the legendary swords. Zoro beats Tashigi because boys rule and girls drool. Tashigi thinks Zoro went easy on her because she's a girl, and he starts to think back on his conversation with Kuina. Luffy and Sanji run into Smoker, and Luffy wants to settle the score. Luffy ultimately gets decimated in this fight, as he can't do anything to hurt Smoker. Smoker goes in for the finishing blow, but the strange cloaked man named Dragon stops Smoker, and a random green gust of wind blows everything away. Luffy uses this opportunity to launch the boys onto the Going Merry, and they set sail. But Smoker says that he'll follow Luffy into the Grand Line, and Tashigi goes along so she can settle the score with Zoro. Speaking of setting sail and wanting revenge, Buggy and his crew also make it out and decide to follow Luffy into the Grand Line to get his revenge. The Straw Hats find the lighthouse that symbolizes the end of the East Blue. As celebration, they all announce their dreams for the Grand Line. Sanji will find the All Blue. Zoro will become the world's greatest swordsman. Luffy will become the king of the pirates. Nami will make a detailed map of the world. And Usopp will become a brave warrior of the sea. With their dreams said loud and proud, they head off into the Grand Line, marking the end of the beginning. To be continued.